Today, we'll be putting 3 of the hottest premium travel credit cards head to head, that of course being the Amex Platinum card, Chase Sapphire Reserve, and Capital One Venture X. If you're either a frequent traveler or somebody that gets to travel here and there but wants to get the most value from your money, this video is for you. We're going to break down the annual fees, welcome bonus, credits, benefits, earning categories, and everything else you need to know in this comprehensive video to help you choose the right card for your lifestyle. And don't worry, I'm not just going to be reading off of the websites here, but instead I'm going to give you a lot of my opinions on each of these cards with some little tips and tricks I've found with each of them based on personal experience. So which one of these cards is truly best for you? Let's find out. All right, first things first, let's talk annual fees. Premium cards like these do come with some really hefty annual fees, but those fees do come with a lot of perks attached to them if you know how to use them. To cover what each of them are, the Amex Platinum has a $695 annual fee with an additional $195 fee per authorized user. They do have a no annual fee version of an authorized user card, but that gets no benefits. Just thought I'd mention it for completeness sake. The Chase Sapphire Reserve has a $550 annual fee with authorized user fees of $75, and then the Venture X has the lowest annual fee of $395 with no fees for up to 4 authorized users. But remember that these annual fees do not tell the whole story. And I say that because whenever you start to factor in the credits and benefits and everything else that has to do with these cards, things are going to look a lot different. And as y'all know, if you've watched my channel for a while, I really do not care about annual fees. You may be thinking that's a crazy statement, but let me finish. I don't care about the actual annual fees listed on the company's websites, but instead I care about effective annual fees. And to calculate that for each one of these credit cards, we need to first start with their welcome offers. Welcome offers are going to be where you get the biggest bang for your buck in the first year of holding a credit card. So let's break them down one by one, and I'll give you some things to keep in mind if you do want to go for one of these welcome offers. Starting with the Amex Platinum card, it has a public welcome offer of 80,000 membership rewards points after spending $8,000 in the first 6 months of having it. Now, this is a public welcome offer on Amex's website, but I would never go for this offer actually. Instead, you can apply for Amex's targeted promotions, which come in the form of emails, mail-in offers, or you can also find them through an incognito browser, or you can find special limited time offers through referral links or through resi.com or something like that. And as of right now, at the time of recording, you can find offers for up to 175,000 points for the exact same amount of spend. So obviously you do not want to take the base offer. Also, Amex does have a nice pre-approval tool that allows you to see if you'd be approved for this card before accepting it and subsequently getting a hard pull, if you're not an existing Amex customer, that is. But one annoying thing to consider when it comes to applying for this card is that Amex recently released 2 new rules as it comes to the welcome bonus eligibility for it. The first one being that the different flavors of the American Express Platinum cards, as we call them at least, now affect each other in terms of welcome offer eligibility. And basically what it means is that you can only get one welcome offer on any of the Platinum cards ever. So the different flavors are going to be the vanilla Amex Platinum card, as we're talking about right here, on top of the Charles Schwab Platinum and Morgan Stanley Platinum. The most optimal approach is usually going to be getting the vanilla Platinum because it has elevated offers like the one I just listed, and then later applying for the Charles Schwab or Morgan Stanley Platinums without a welcome offer, since that's what we have to do now. The second thing Amex did was add family language to their charge cards, that being the Amex Gold, Green, and Platinum, which basically prevents you from getting the lower annual fee cards out of that list if you've already gotten approved for one of the higher annual fee cards. So say that you got the Amex Platinum card welcome offer, you are now ineligible for the Amex Gold card and Amex Green card welcome offers, which presents a big opportunity cost if you do decide to not go up the ladder and start at the green card first. Next up, we have the Chase Sapphire Reserve with a 60,000 point welcome offer after spending $4,000 in the first 3 months. And similar to Amex, Chase does every once in a while give you elevated offers on this card. So while 60,000 points is standard, it's not unheard of to find anywhere from 75 to 90,000 points as part of an elevated offer, again through referral links or maybe even by going in branch to apply for this card. But do remember that a lot of times the more optimal approach with the Chase Sapphire Reserve is to get the welcome offer on the Chase Sapphire Preferred, since the Preferred almost always gets elevated offers compared to the Reserve, and then product change your Preferred to the Reserve after a year of holding it. Now, of course, if you're just looking to apply for a luxury travel credit card right now, that method is not going to be one that you want to use because you have to wait that year, but just wanted to call it out. The main application rules to consider with Chase is one, of course, going to be the Chase 524 rule, which states that if you've been approved for 5 or more personal credit cards in the last 24 months with any lender, you will automatically be denied for your next Chase credit card application. The second rule is going to be the one Sapphire card rule, which means exactly what it sounds like. You can only hold one Chase Sapphire card at a time. So if you already have the Chase Sapphire Preferred Preferred, for example, you would either need to product change it up to the Reserve, or if you've had it for more than 48 months, which is the rule we're going to talk about next, you could downgrade that card and then reapply fresh for a new Sapphire card, that being the Reserve in this case, to lock in the welcome offer. And then the third rule is the 48-month rule, which states that if you've gotten a bonus on a Chase Sapphire card in the last 48 months, then you are ineligible for a welcome offer on a Sapphire card again. But if you do wait out that 48-month clock, like I said, you could downgrade that Sapphire card and reapply for the same one or the other one that you haven't had and get a new bonus on it. Then, of course, we have the Capital One Venture X with a base welcome offer of 75,000 Capital One miles after spending $4,000 in the first 3 months of having it. Unfortunately, we really haven't seen any elevated offers on this card besides when it was first released at 100,000 Capital One miles for the same amount of spend, but that may actually change soon based on some rumors I've heard. The main thing to note with this card as it comes to the application is that it's actually a lot harder to get approved for than you'd think, but not for the reasons that you'd think. Generally, Capital One actually denies people that have a very long credit history and a high credit score, which is counterintuitive to what a premium card, should approve you for. But if you are somebody that's earlier on in your journey, even if you do have a good amount of credit cards, I've found success in applying for it, and you should be fine. But if you are later on in your journey, it might be a little bit tougher. There is sometimes a pre-approval link floating around for this card, so that could help you tell whether or not you might get approved before using somebody's referral link, of course. But Capital One does actually hard pull all 3 bureaus whenever you go to apply, so it is one that I wouldn't just send without really thinking about it. Now, this is all great to note as it comes to getting value from the card in the first year, but in getting these cards, I'm assuming most of y'all want to keep them open for the long run and want them to be your just dedicated travel credit card, which leads us into part 3, the credits and benefits. Now, this is where a lot of the annual fees, if not all of the annual fees, get offset with these credit cards, and you can really see where their value comes into play. Quick note here, every single one of these cards have no foreign transaction fees, which is awesome. They also give you access to their respective lenders' transfer partners, which is a big perk, and they come with excellent travel and retail protections, but all of which I'm not going to get into in depth in this video because it would just be way too long. This is already going to be a long video. So just know that we're mostly going to be covering the credits and benefits that differ between these cards. That way you can see each one of their competitive advantages and disadvantages. Starting with the most extensive list of credits and benefits, the Amex Platinum card. Now buckle up here. I am going to list off all of the credits and benefits that I think are at least relevant on this card. But again, not just reading off the website, I'm going to be giving you some tips as to how you can use them to maximize your value from the card. So even if you've heard these before, maybe you'll learn something new. The first one is the $200 airline fee statement credits for incidental fees like baggage, seat selection, or in-flight purchases on a selected airline. There are a lot of little things you can do here to maximize the value of this credit, even if you don't, pay for these incidental charges all the time on your card. But we've seen positive data points showing that you can split up purchases to trigger this credit, or do something like buy gift cards in smaller increments to help you knock this thing down. Another small thing is that the credit does reset every calendar year. So if you apply for this card later in the year, you can use the $200 credit right away and then use it again immediately the following year. So just make sure you keep track of that if you are approved for this card. Next up, we have the $200 Uber credit broken down into $15 per month and $35 in December, which can be used for both Uber rides or Uber Eats. Small tip is that if you set your Uber Eats to pick up only, you'll save on the delivery fees and having to tip a driver. So that's one way to maximize the value from this credit. Then we have the $200 hotel credit for the Fine Hotels and Resorts or Hotel Collection. And the Fine Hotels and Resorts collection in particular is one that I know a lot of people really love because it gives you things like free breakfast, room upgrades, early check-in, late checkout, and a lot more stuff like that, which just makes your experience way more enjoyable. The $240 digital entertainment credit is broken down into $20 per month credits for eligible digital entertainment services like New York Times, Disney Plus, and more. If you're somebody that's not going to use the full $20 per month that this credit provides, you can consider prepaying for services like the New York Times, for example, which allows you to load your account with unused credits. So even if your subscription costs less than that $20 per month, you may actually be able to still take advantage of the full $20 per month, therefore bringing down your effective annual fee even more. The Amex Platinum also gives you a $100 global entry or TSA pre-check credit every 4 years. For those that don't know, if you're trying to decide between these two credits, always go for global entry because it will give you TSA pre-check as well. And if you already have this credit covered by another card, you can just use your Amex Platinum card to pay for somebody else's membership, which is exactly what I plan to do with my Chase Sapphire Reserve and Venture X for my girlfriend. You just have to make sure that you set the right card to pay for it and then get that credit back. As for some quicker credits here, it comes with a $199 Clear Plus credit to help you offset the cost of that membership and get you through security lines quicker. A $155 Walmart Plus credit to cover the monthly subscription of that. I've personally used Walmart Plus in place of Amazon Prime every once in a while, and it gives you added benefits like a Paramount Plus subscription that does have ads, some gas discounts and stuff like that too. Next up is a $100 Saks Fifth Avenue credit broken down into 2 semi-annual $50 credits. And if you don't shop at Saks often, for one, you could just buy gifts for people, in the holidays, or you could buy gift cards with this credit too and just save it for later. For some seemingly good value credits that I don't think many people actually use here, you have a $300 Equinox credit per year on top of a $300 SoulCycle credit whenever you purchase a SoulCycle at-home bike and have an Equinox Plus subscription. So again, pretty worthless for the majority of us, but hey, maybe it actually makes sense for you. Now, those are all of the credits, but the benefits are also where this card really comes to play, starting with the lounge access that it provides through the Global American Express Lounge Collection. The Platinum card is going to give you access to the Amex Centurion lounges, a Priority Pass Select membership, Delta Sky Clubs, Escape lounges, Plaza Premium lounges, and certain Lufthansa lounges. Honestly, this is probably the biggest reason that people like this credit card, despite the changes that they've made to their lounge access recently. Most people do favor the Centurion lounges over any of the other lounges in this collection, but I know access to these lounges have just been harder and harder to come by these days because so many people just have this credit card. With this card, you'll be able to bring 2 guests into most of these lounges, but there are new rules for the Centurion lounges and Delta Sky Clubs that you need to be aware of starting in 2025. Plus, this card gives you Hilton and Marriott Gold status, as well as some status with Avis, Hertz, and National Car Rentals. Man, that was the most long-winded portion of this whole video, so let's get into the other 2 cards here, which are going to be a bit more brief, and that may sound like a bad thing, but I think it's actually a lot more digestible. So next up, the Chase Sapphire Reserve. First off, it has a $300 annual travel credit, including airfare, hotels, and even Uber or parking expenses. You can basically just consider this $300 travel credit as being an automatic discount off of your annual fee every year, bringing the effective annual fee immediately down to $250. And that's because it's just like one of the most flexible credits out there. But to cover the rest of the effective annual fee, one of the biggest benefits this card offers is a 50% points boost through Chase's travel portal whenever you book travel using this credit card, which gives you a guaranteed redemption rate for your Chase points of 1.5 cents per point. Now, this has actually been a really amazing feature for myself as somebody that's held this card for a little over a year now. And I didn't actually initially expect to use it that much because I just figured I'd transfer my points out to their partners, get max value that way. But for domestic flights, particularly when I can't find any kind of good redemption rate through the airline alliances, 1.5 cents per point generally beats all of the point valuations of the domestic airlines out there. Granted, you do need to make sure that the prices in the Chase portal are not inflated, but if not, this is a great deal. Also, I recently used this perk to book an IHG hotel for the New Orleans Creator Meetup through Chase's Edit collection, which I didn't actually even know was a thing until recently. And that basically operates the exact same way as Fine Hotels and Resorts does for American Express. So that experience was amazing. And if you want me to make a full video about that trip, let me know down below. The next big benefit the Sapphire Reserve has is of course going to be lounge access as well. This time just to the Chase Sapphire lounges, plus a Priority Pass Select membership. Chase, Amex, and Capital One are kind of the big 3 lenders out there that are competing in the airport lounge game right now. And each one of their premium travel credit cards is going to give you access to their specific lounges. And what this means is that each one of them is focused on bringing a better and better experience to their card holders, making all of the Centurion lounges, Chase Sapphire lounges, and Capital One lounges pretty competitive, and which ones are best for you just kind of depending on what airport you frequent the most. Also note with the Chase Sapphire Reserve that you do get 2 free guests to all of the lounges that you have access to, and authorized users also will get 2 free guests as well. This card also comes with a $100 global entry or TSA pre-check credit every 4 years, plus DoorDash Dash Pass and DoorDash credits as well. And then one of the really underrated perks about this card is that it does give you a Lyft Pink membership for 2 years, as long as you do activate it by December 31st of 2024, so the end of this year. And Lyft Pink gives you stuff like 15% off of your rides, priority airport pickups, and more. Now, again, as somebody with this card, I didn't actually know I'd use this perk as much as I do, and I've used it so much that I will likely consider purchasing it for myself once my free membership does expire, depending on how much value I actually got from it, especially considering I can add a 3rd year of Lyft Pink to my account for 50% off since I do have the Chase Sapphire Reserve. And then for the last part of part 3 here, we have the Capital One Venture X. Similar to the Chase Sapphire Reserve, this card has a $300 annual travel credit for travel booked through Capital One's travel portal only. So while it does seem like a pretty great value whenever you just look at it at a broad overview, unlike the Chase Sapphire Reserve, it is very restricted to only being able to be used through Capital One's travel portal. And this is another card that I've had for over a year and a half at this point, and this is actually one of the most annoying credits that I have to deal with on a yearly basis, just because in general, I want to book all of my travel in points and don't want to have to book in cash through a portal, so it's just a little bit too restrictive for my liking. However, if it does fit your natural spending habits, that brings down your effective annual fee to just $95 right off the bat. Now, if you use that perk plus the 10,000 anniversary miles every single year for renewing the card, that's going to make up the rest of your effective annual fee and puts everything else that this card gives you in the positive. Just like the last 2 cards, one of the biggest benefits of this one is the lounge access, and the Venture X specifically gives you access to the Capital One lounges lounges, a Priority Pass Select membership, and Plaza Premium lounges. I will say that the Capital One lounges are some of the nicest I've ever been to. The one I frequent the most would be the one in DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth. But once again, all these lenders are competing on the lounge front, which is just really good for us consumers at the end of the day. And I hope that we keep seeing better and better lounges come out from each one of these lenders. Once again, the primary cardholder and authorized users get at least 2 free guests into each of these, so another big perk. Further than that, again, this card gives you a $100 global entry or TSA pre-check credit every 4 years. And one of the perks that I do really like about this card is that it gives you Hertz President Circle status, but that is only up until 2025 now, which is one of the reasons that I'm not loving this card as much as I used to. So on paper, of course, the Amex Platinum card is going to give you the most value out of any of these credit cards, but with all of the credits that it offers, you have to ask yourself if you would actually use them before having the card. And that goes for all of these cards, of course, but it's just most obvious with the Amex Platinum card. And as it comes to calculating the effective annual fee for each of them, I honestly just can't do that because it's going to vary so much from person to person, which yes, this does mean you have some homework to do after watching this video, but I promise you it's well worth it. Just be sure that whenever you're calculating your effective annual fee, that you are as honest with yourself as possible and only accounting for credits that you would have used before getting the credit cards, because if not, then you're just stuck spending money on stuff you wouldn't have before, and that's exactly why these credit card companies love you. At this point, we have a really good understanding of the main value propositions of each of these credit cards, but we still haven't covered a pretty massive benefit of all of them, that of course being their earning categories. And don't worry, the rest of these sections in this video are going to be a bit quicker, and I promise that if you stay till the end of this video, you're going to learn something that you didn't know before, so stick with me here. The earning categories on the Amex Platinum are 5x back on flights booked directly with airlines up to $500,000, 5x points on prepaid hotels or flights through Amex Travel, and 1x on everything else. So as you can see, this card is actually terrible for daily spending. I would not use this card for any amount of daily spend outside of the elevated earning categories, and I always cringe every single time I see someone bring out this card at dinner or, at the grocery store, because that's just not what this card is made for. It's really only ever to be used for flights or through the Amex Travel portal, but outside of that, you're going to want to use a card like the Amex Gold card that pairs really well with the Amex Platinum to earn all of your Amex membership rewards points. That way you keep the Amex Platinum as just a benefits card, but really not much more than that. The Chase Sapphire Reserve, on the other hand, gives you 10x points on Chase dining, hotel, and car rentals booked through the Ultimate Rewards portal, 10x on Lyft rides through March of 2025, 10x on Peloton through the end of March of 2025, 5x on flights after using the full travel credit booked through the Ultimate Rewards portal, 3x on other travel after using the full travel credit, 3x on dining, and 1x on everything else. So this is actually my most used credit card out of my entire credit card setup, and I have 14 credit cards at the time of making this video, so that does say something. And that's mainly due to the 3x points that it gives me on dining and travel. Those are two of my highest expenses every single month, so that's why it gets some good use. Just like with the Platinum card, it's also amazing for travel booked through Chase as well, but with that 50% points boost that this card gives you through the portal, I try to use cash as little as possible. So unlike the Platinum card, this one actually could be used as your daily driver in your day-to-day setup, but of course that just depends on what other cards you have. Then we come to the Venture X that gives you 10x miles on hotels and car rentals booked through Capital One Travel, 5x miles on flights booked through Capital One Travel, and 2x miles on everything else. So speaking of daily drivers, the Venture X is kind of like the quintessential daily driver credit card, since it is practically a 2% catch-all card. Since I have the Venture X as well as the Chase Sapphire Reserve, I use the Chase Sapphire Reserve again for my dining and travel purchases, and then practically use the Venture X for everything else whenever I'm traveling. And I imagine that the simplicity of that flat 2x back is a big reason that people really like this card. So to summarize this section, the Amex Platinum card is very powerful when it comes to booking flights directly with airlines. The Chase Sapphire Reserve is a solid all-rounder credit card that is great for really the everyday traveler. And I think the Venture X's 2x earning category makes it just an easy one for anybody to add to their setup. So it's great to know the multipliers that each of these cards earn, but that doesn't really mean much unless we know what we can use these points for. So I want to dedicate a quick section here to the point valuations of each of these ecosystems. Starting with Amex membership rewards points, Amex has a long list of cards that do earn Amex membership rewards points, but they're straight cashback credit cards like the Amex Blue Cash Everyday, Blue Cash Preferred, etc. Those don't earn points, they just earn cashback. One neat thing with MR points that is different than other currencies is the fact that all of the points you earn pool into one central account, so you don't have to ever move your points around. They're just stored in one main place. On top of that, membership rewards points never expire, and if you close one of your Amex cards but have another MR point earning card alive, your points are not going to be lost at all. However, if you close all of your membership reward point earning cards, then you will lose all of your points, so be careful about that. The method that I recommend to keep your membership reward point balances alive are going to be either utilizing the Amex Blue Business Plus or the Amex Everyday card, but other than that, you don't actually have many free options to keeping your points alive. If you do have any cards that earn MR points, you're going to have the ability to transfer your points out to their partners. And in general, if you do utilize this method, of course, with the right partners, which I need to make a full video about in the future, the value that you can get from Amex membership rewards points is on average going to be 2 cents per point. You can also redeem through their travel portal at a 1 cent per point rate, but I would not recommend doing that. And the only way to ever redeem for cashback, if that's something you want to do, is by getting the Amex Charles Schwab Platinum card, which allows you to redeem for cashback at a 1.1 cent per point rate. Without that card though, you're only going to get 0.6 cents per point for your Amex membership rewards points, which you should never ever do. So overall, as transfer partners are the main way you should be utilizing your membership rewards points, we'll value Amex points at an average of 2 cents per point. Little drinking game for you if you're feeling adventurous. Every time I've said point in this video, take a sip and I'm sure you'll be done by the end of this video. That is, of course, sips of Coca-Cola, guys. Come on. Moving into the Chase Ultimate Rewards point ecosystem, all of Chase's core credit cards earn Chase's Ultimate Rewards points, that being the Chase Freedom cards, Chase Sapphire cards, and Chase Ink cards, besides the Chase Ink Premier. And while your points don't automatically pool into one central account like Amex, you can easily move your points from any of your credit cards to another credit card at any given time. UR points also never expire, but before you close any of your individual card accounts, you want to move your points to a different UR point earning card. That way you don't lose those points. If you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve, Chase Sapphire Preferred, or Chase Ink Preferred, UR points can be transferred out to Chase's travel partners. So basically any of their annual fee cards besides the Ink Premier allow you to transfer out to partners. If you've been around the game for a while, you know that in general, people like to transfer their Chase points out to Hyatt to get the most value from them. But how you use your points is of course completely up to you. As we mentioned earlier, if you do have the Chase Sapphire Reserve, you get a 50% points boost through their travel portal. And with the Chase Sapphire Preferred and Chase Ink Preferred, you get a 25% boost, so that is an option as well. One unique value proposition of Chase's ecosystem compared to Amex and Capital One is that you can redeem your points for cashback at 1 cent per point. But once again, since we're kind of talking about people on team travel here, I'm going to assume that you're using their transfer partners, which give Chase points another average value of 2 cents per point. I do value Chase points higher than Amex just because of my personal use case with Hyatt. And since Hyatt only partners with Chase out of this list, that's why I say that. Capital One's ecosystem is a little bit similar to Chase in the sense that all of the cashback earned on your Capital One credit cards can have their points converted to miles if you have one of the venture credit cards. And as it comes to combining your Capital One miles, you can move them from any venture card to another venture card at any time, or from any cashback card to the venture cards also at any time. However, you cannot move your miles earned from a venture card to cashback on one of the cashback cards. So just know that before transferring your cashback over to miles, because you don't want to be stuck only having to use your points for travel if that's not what you intended. Capital One miles also never expire as long as your accounts are active and everything. But just like Chase, if you were to close one of your cards that had miles on it, without transferring them to another card first, you would lose those points. So be cognizant of that. In order to get your Capital One miles out to their travel partners, you are going to need one of their venture cards, that being the Venture X, Venture, or Venture One cards. And although Capital One's travel partners are not talked about as much as Chase and Amex, for example, they actually have a lot of overlapping partners with them, and therefore are going to have the same average cent per point value of 2 cents per point. You can also redeem your Capital One miles through their portal at a 1 cent per point rate. Again, not something I would recommend doing, but you can. And you'll never want to redeem your Capital One miles for cash back because you'll only get half a cent per point in doing so, which is even worse than Amex, which is already terrible. So overall, to make things simple, we're going to value Capital One miles at the exact same rate we do Chase and Amex, with the understanding that it really all depends on your specific travel habits and what transfer partners you want access to. And now that we've covered the nitty gritty on each one of these credit cards, I want to give you my personal opinions on them. That way you can hopefully leave with an understanding of which card is right for you. In reality, I think it mainly comes down to one factor alone, that being what lounges you have in your home airport. So does your home airport have a Centurion, Sapphire, or Capital One lounge? Well, that theoretically makes the decision for you pretty dang easy. For example, for myself, I have the Chase Sapphire Reserve since it gives me access to the Chase Sapphire Terrace Lounge in the Austin airport, which is my home airport. And I also traveled through DFW and traveled to Denver quite a bit, so having the Capital One lounge access has been helpful there. Rarely do I ever need Centurion lounge access, and while it would be nice, it's just not worth it for me to pay that hefty of an annual fee, especially considering the credits are not all ones that I would use naturally. And at the end of the day, really the biggest reason that anybody gets a luxury travel credit card is for the added benefits that the card gives them for travel, specifically the airport lounge access. So that has to be like the highest thing that you're considering, to be honest. Further than that, even though we've discussed a lot about these credit cards, one of the smaller things I want to touch on again are the authorized user fees. To reiterate from earlier, the Amex Platinum is going to charge you $195 per authorized user card if you want benefits on the card. The Chase Sapphire Reserve only charges $75 $50 per card, and the Venture X has no fee for up to 4 users. So if you're somebody with a large family and want just broad airport lounge access for the entire family, the Venture X is probably going to be the best choice for you because it's just the cheapest option. But if you're a solo business traveler, don't care to bring in any guests with you, and would use the credits on this card like crazy, then the Amex Platinum card could by far and away be the best card for you. Again, it just depends on your situation. One more key thing to touch on here is also going to be the downgrade options for each of these cards, because I think that could help you decide which one's right for you. For the Amex Platinum, the only downgrade options you have are the Amex Gold card and Amex Green card, both of which having annual fees. The Venture X and the Chase Sapphire Reserve, on the other hand, do have free downgrade options, but you just don't have that with the Amex Platinum card. So you need to make sure that it's not one of your earliest credit cards you applied for. First of all, I don't know why it would be, but probably a safe bet to not have it be your first credit card. And don't forget that if you do get this card before the Amex Green or Gold card, you make yourself ineligible for their welcome bonuses. So just a lot of opportunity cost to keep in mind with this card at the end of the day. With the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the 2 free options you have to downgrade to, well, I guess there are 3, would be the Chase Freedom Flex, Chase Freedom Unlimited, and OG Chase Freedom. So not only do you have that free access, but you can also downgrade to the Chase Sapphire Preferred if you want to keep your access to their travel partners at a lower annual fee of $95. With the Capital One Venture X, you can downgrade very similarly to the Chase cards, down to the Venture card or the Venture One. I'd probably opt to downgrade to the Venture One credit card because you have access to Capital One's partners for free through the Venture One. But if you're somebody that would actually get use from the Venture card, then maybe you want to stay at that $95 level. And a big question I want to cover before we go is why not get more than one of them? As I've mentioned multiple times so far, I'm actually somebody that does exactly that with my Chase Sapphire Reserve and Capital One Venture X. And that's not only because the earning categories play really well together, but also because they offer me some unique benefits, especially when it comes to the lounge access. Then again, though, I'm getting to the point where I don't really want to balance the annual fees on both, and it's become apparent using both of them for over a year now that the benefits actually do overlap really heavily outside of that lounge access. And with the Chase Sapphire Terrace Lounge being the one that I need the most access to, the Chase Sapphire Reserve is just the better card for me. That plus the fact that I get the 50% boost of my points in their portal, and that I'm earning points in a currency that I value the highest out of any ecosystem, just goes to show that if I was to actually cancel one of these, which is a possibility next year, it'd be the Venture X. Then again, though, I do think if I was traveling a lot more and wanted more access to different lounges, the Venture X would be an easy one to keep in my setup because it just covers its annual fee so easily every year, as long as you do book travel through their travel portal, that is. But that's just not me at the moment. Then there's the Amex Platinum card, of course. This card is one that honestly just stands in a category of its own, in my opinion, because it just packs such a punch. There are so many different reasons that this card could be good for you, from the credits to the hotel statuses, lounge access, and more. However, I just don't think it's necessarily a card that fits the target demographic of my videos, that being people that are more on the beginner to intermediate stages of their journey that may not have a super high income or travel a ton for work. At the same time, though, I know a lot of y'all do actually utilize this card to its fullest, that being because you have a higher income, you live in an area where the credits are really easy to use, and you're traveling many times per year, especially in airports with Centurion lounges. And that means that for you, the Platinum card is going to blow these cards out of the water. And the only reason that you really need the Chase Sapphire Reserve or the Capital One Venture X is if you wanted more airport lounge access to the Capital One lounges or Chase Sapphire lounges. So again, this has been a common sentiment throughout this video. I know it's been a long one, but which card for you is going to completely depend on your personal lifestyle, your spending habits, your travel habits, and there is no one best card for everybody. But before getting any of these credit cards and traveling for free with them, you need to understand that free travel is never truly as free as we tend to think. So to hear me explain why that's the case based on a trip I took to the Bahamas this summer, go ahead and watch this video next. And as always, Odin and I both want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time.